Ryan fell for my roommate at first sight. He snapped a photo of her and posted it in the university's notorious rich kids group chat. Does anyone know this girl? I'll pay $10,000 for her contact info. Someone quickly replied, I have it, but that person made a mistake and sent mine instead. Ryan and I had an online relationship for the entire winter break. It wasn't until the semester started, when he finally saw me in person, that he realized what had happened. After thinking it over for a while, he offered a compromise. Let's break up, and then you help me pursue Melissa. Once it works out, I'll write you a blank check. Fill in whatever amount you want. Deal? Ryan's attitude was sincere. Despite attending the same university, this was his first time actually seeing me, but I had secretly watched him hundreds of times before. In my memory, he always appeared indifferent, as if nothing could catch his attention. Yet now, for Melissa's sake, he was being extraordinarily generous, offering a blank check outright. He told me, don't worry, I'll settle the score with Nathan later when I get back. I'd heard of Nathan before, the campus playboy everyone knew about. He was the one who gave Ryan my contact information. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. It's fine, I'll do it. There was nothing to hesitate about. I did have feelings for Ryan, but at the same time, I desperately needed money. I just never imagined that my first relationship would end so miserably. A cold wind swept by, and I instinctively adjusted the scarf around my neck. Ryan glanced at me, his eyes dark as ink. He sighed. I'm sorry. I suddenly remembered that the day he added me as a friend was also a snowy day like this. I had just returned home from the station, standing in the wind and snow, reading that friend request over and over again. Ryan and I went to the same high school. Long ago, I had memorized his profile picture and username, and now, we were juniors in college. 6 whole years had passed. My hands were almost trembling as I accepted Ryan's friend request. His message came through. Hi, I'm Ryan. I saw you this afternoon and wanted to get to know you. That moment was the happiest of my entire life, but now I realized it had all been nothing but an illusion from beginning to end. After getting Melissa's permission, I gave Ryan her contact information. She wasn't exceptionally beautiful, but she was lively and cheerful and had attracted quite a few admirers since the semester began, but clearly, none of them compared to Ryan. She held her phone, chatting with Ryan while asking me curiously, how do you know Ryan? I paused for a moment. I didn't tell the truth. We randomly added each other, never really talked. Melissa felt relieved. I'm so nervous. I don't know how to chat with him. Do you think he really likes me? I nodded, yes. After saying that, I grabbed my study materials and left the dorm. When I reached the library building, I received a message from Ryan. I want to take her to dinner tomorrow. Do you know if she has any dietary restrictions or what she likes to eat? I took a deep breath. Then I placed my finger on the screen and scrolled up. Not long ago, he used to call me Tara. For those 2 months, we chatted from morning till night, and he knew all my preferences. Before we met, knowing I loved sweets, he had even taken the time to learn several famous regional dishes. But Melissa's tastes were exactly opposite to mine. She doesn't like sweets. She loves spicy food. There was a long silence on his end before he replied. Okay, seeing that word, I turned off my phone screen. Sometimes, I really wanted to marvel at how unpredictable life is. Just days ago, he was still coaxing me to sleep, saying things that made my heart race and cheeks flush. I'm no gentleman, you'll find out when we meet. But when we actually met, all he left me with was an apology. Ryan's messages weren't frequent. He would only occasionally ask about Melissa's preferences. I did my job diligently. Everything I knew, I answered honestly. That day, when I returned from outside, I found Melissa lying in bed, looking unwell. I touched her forehead. She was burning up. Right then, Ryan sent me a message. Is Melissa in the dorm? I've been calling her but she's not picking up. I quickly told him that Melissa had a fever. Ryan replied immediately. Help her downstairs. I'll drive over. I said okay, but I wasn't strong enough. Going down, it took considerable effort. When I saw Ryan, my grip loosened for a moment. My hand hit the door frame. Melissa almost fell. Seeing this, Ryan rushed over. He frowned, his voice cold. Tara, you almost made her fall. Enduring the pain in my wrist, I quickly said, I didn't mean to. Ryan ignored me. He carried Melissa to his car. I watched the car drive away. I stood there for quite a while, watching the person you love care for another girl so attentively. Now I knew what that felt like. For a while after that, Ryan never contacted me again. After Melissa returned from the hospital, she video called Ryan every night. The other 2 girls in our dorm would occasionally appear on camera or chat nearby. Only I kept my distance, never making a sound. Yet he used to call me the same way. Back then, I truly believed we would have a story together. But one time, Melissa was in the shower with her phone left outside. It rang for a long time. She called out to me, can you answer it for me? I looked at the screen. Ryan's name was displayed prominently. He had already called several times. It seemed he was worried something had happened to Melissa again. I hesitated, then answered. Ryan's voice came through the speaker, very gentle. Melissa? My heart ached. I pressed my lips together. She's in the shower. Hearing this, Ryan fell silent for a moment, then spoke in a very certain tone. It's you. There was no reason he wouldn't recognize my voice. I hummed in response. The other end went quiet. I delivered the message. I was about to hang up when he suddenly spoke again. I didn't mean to snap at you that day. I held the phone, not knowing what to say. After a long while, I managed just 2 words. It's fine. He seemed surprised that after all this time, that was all I had to say. He laughed softly. Okay. That night, Ryan's message appeared on my screen again. It had a sense of reconciliation to it. Thanks for last time. Ryan was incredibly attentive to Melissa. He gave her many gifts. Flowers, handbags, jewelry, so much that her cabinet could barely hold them all. Yet Melissa still seemed troubled. He's so good to me, but I don't know why. It's been over a month and he still hasn't confessed. Does he expect me to make the first move? The other 2 roommates asked curiously. Have you kissed? kissed? Hugged? Melissa shook her head. No. Then, after hesitating, she added, we haven't even held hands yet. I listened silently from the side, saying nothing. In the silence, one roommate spoke up. I heard Ryan has never been in a relationship. With his conditions, he's never shown interest in any girl before you. Keep trying. Lock down that relationship status soon. But I remembered that during winter break, Ryan confessed to me after we'd only chatted for half a month. I guessed he probably got burned with me, so this time he wanted to take things slow. Still, either way, they should be together soon. But I never expected to run into Ryan the very next evening. He was playing basketball on the court with some friends. I happened to pass by and got hit squarely. The person rushed over. He looked at the bruise on my forehead, then grabbed my arm. Let me take you to the hospital. I looked up. Sunlight poured down. The person across from me saw my face clearly and froze slightly. Just then, I saw Ryan walking over from behind. His expression was stern as he called out, Nathan. That's when I realized the person who hit me was Nathan, the one who had mistakenly given Ryan my contact information. Ryan's gaze fell on my arm, his face devoid of any smile. It's just taking someone to the hospital. Is all this grabbing and pulling really necessary?
Nathan slowly loosened his grip, but he didn't step back right away. His eyes flicked between my forehead and Ryan's face, like he was deciding something he hadn't planned to say out loud. It was an accident, Nathan said evenly. If I didn't pull her over, she'd have taken the full hit. Ryan's jaw tightened. I saw what happened. The words were calm, but the edge underneath them wasn't. I stood there between them, suddenly aware of how ridiculous it looked. Two boys arguing over a bruise I could barely feel anymore. Except the silence around us made it feel heavier than it was. Nathan finally let go of my arm. Hospital's still a good idea, he said, this time looking at me instead of Ryan. You might be dizzy later. I'm fine, I replied quickly. Ryan didn't ask. He just stepped closer, eyes dropping to the faint redness on my forehead. His expression shifted for a second, something like irritation or concern he didn't want to admit to. Then he spoke, colder than before. Why are you even walking around here alone? I almost laughed at that. Alone. Was I ever anything but? Before I could answer, Nathan cut in again, lighter this time. She's not your responsibility, Ryan. That sentence hung in the air. Ryan didn't respond immediately. Instead, his gaze moved to Nathan's slow, sharp, deliberate. She is when she gets hurt because of you. My fingers curled slightly at my side. So that was it. Not me. Not really. Just blame shifting from one person to another. Nathan exhaled, almost amused. You're still doing that thing where you decide who belongs where, huh? Ryan didn't take the bait. He turned slightly toward me instead. Come on, he said. I'll take you to the clinic. It wasn't a question. And for a second, I actually considered refusing, just to prove I could still choose something for myself. But then my vision flickered slightly when I tilted my head, and the dull ache on my forehead reminded me I wasn't made of stone. I'll go myself, I said. Neither of them moved. That was the problem now. Even my smallest decisions felt like they were being watched. Nathan shoved his hands into his pockets. I'll walk you. Ryan's eyes snapped to him instantly. No, Ryan said flatly. One word. Final. Something in me tightened. Nathan raised a brow. Why? A pause. Ryan looked at me, not Nathan, when he answered. Because she's with me. The sentence landed wrong. Too certain. Too late. I let out a slow breath. I'm not with anyone, I said quietly. That finally made the air shift. Ryan's expression flickered, just for a second, like I'd corrected something he thought was already decided. Nathan, however, smiled faintly. Good answer. That should have been the end of it. Instead, Ryan stepped forward and took my wrist again, gentler this time, but still firm enough that it left no room for argument. I'll just take you to get checked, he said, voice lower. Then I'll leave you alone. That last part sounded like something he was forcing out. I looked at his hand on my wrist. For a moment, I remembered winter break again, his messages, his voice, the way he used to say my name like it meant something more than a placeholder. And then I remembered Melissa. Smiling. Nervous. Trusting me. I pulled my hand back. I said I'll go myself. Silence. Nathan watched, like he was quietly amused by how badly things were unraveling. Ryan didn't move for a second. Then he let his hand drop. Fine, he said. One word again. But this time it didn't sound final. It sounded like restraint. He stepped back, eyes still on me. At least let someone go with you. I can manage. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, Nathan spoke. I'll go. Ryan's head turned sharply. And for the first time since I'd known him, since winter break, since the fake contact, since everything, Ryan looked like he didn't know where to place his anger anymore. For a second, the space between them tightened so much it felt like it might crack. Ryan's gaze shifted to Nathan slowly, like he was trying to confirm he hadn't misheard. "You're volunteering now?" Ryan asked. Nathan shrugged. "She said she's fine going alone." "I'm just correcting that." There was something almost careless in his tone, but his eyes weren't. "They stayed on me." Ryan's expression hardened. "No need," he said. Nathan tilted his head slightly. "She already refused you too." That landed cleanly. No softness, no cushioning. Ryan's jaw flexed. I could feel it then, the invisible line they were both drawing around me, even while pretending I had full control over where I stood. "I can speak for myself," I said, my voice sharper than intended. Both of them went quiet. That silence did something worse than arguing. It made me visible in a way neither of them had. "Accounted for." Nathan lifted his hand slightly. "All right. Speak." Ryan didn't look away. I exhaled slowly, the ache in my forehead pulsing again, as if reminding me I didn't have unlimited patience for this. "I'm going to the clinic alone," I said clearly. "No one is coming with me." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Nathan gave a small nod, like he accepted that answer more easily than expected. "Fine," he said simply. "But I'm walking behind you." Ryan's eyes snapped to him again. Nathan added, almost lazily, from a distance, "Relax." That didn't relax anything. Ryan finally looked at me again, and his voice lowered. "You don't trust me to take you?" The question caught me off guard. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was worse, controlled. I met his eyes. "I don't think this is about trust," I said. A beat. Something shifted in his expression. Like he understood, but didn't like the shape of what he understood. Nathan stepped aside slightly, gesturing forward. "Clinic's this way." I started walking. And I didn't look back to see which of them followed closer. The clinic was quieter than expected, the kind of sterile calm that made everything outside feel louder in memory. The nurse checked my forehead quickly, cleaned the small bruise, and told me it was minor. "No concussion, just swelling." "I told you," I muttered under my breath. "Still better to check," Nathan replied from behind me. Ryan didn't speak. He stood near the door the entire time, arms folded, watching without interrupting. Not relaxed. Not leaving. Just there. When we stepped out again, the sunlight felt harsher. I adjusted my bag strap and exhaled. "I'm going back now." Nathan nodded. "I'll walk you." Ryan finally moved. "Stop," he said. Nathan stopped, but didn't turn. Ryan walked closer instead, stopping just a step away from me. For the first time that day, his voice wasn't controlled anymore. "Why him?" he asked. I blinked. "What?" His eyes held mine. "Why are you letting him stay close when you won't let me?" The question wasn't logical. It wasn't fair. And somehow, that made it feel more honest than anything he'd said before. Behind him, Nathan didn't speak, but I could feel his attention sharpen. I looked at Ryan for a long moment. Then I said quietly, "Because you already chose someone else." The words landed softly, but they didn't need volume. Ryan froze. For a second, even the sound of the street seemed to dull. Ryan didn't speak immediately. It was subtle, just a slight shift in his eyes, but it was the first time I'd seen him lose his certainty without replacing it with something else. "That's not," he started, then stopped. His hand flexed once at his side. Nathan stayed quiet, but I could feel it, the attention sharpening again, like he was watching a line being crossed that couldn't be undone. Ryan looked at me properly now. Not at my forehead. Not at the bruise. Not past me. At me. "I didn't choose anyone," he said finally. The simplicity of it should have made things clearer. It didn't. I let out a small breath, almost tired now rather than hurt. "You didn't have to say it out loud for it to be obvious," I replied. A pause. Ryan's gaze flickered, like he was trying to find the exact moment everything had gone wrong, and realizing there were too many to pick from. "That was never meant to be like this," he said, quieter. I almost laughed again, but it came out as nothing. "Which part?" I asked. "Me giving you her contact? You forgetting I existed after?" Or are you only remembering when it was convenient? Each sentence made the air between us thinner. Ryan's expression tightened. That's not fair, he said. This time Nathan actually spoke. Neither was the arrangement, he said flatly. Ryan's head turned sharply toward him. But Nathan didn't flinch. You literally traded people in and out of the same situation like it was logistics, Nathan continued. Don't act shocked when someone stops wanting to be part of it. Silence hit again, heavier this time. Ryan's jaw clenched. I watched him carefully, waiting for anger, denial, anything sharp enough to cut through it. But what came instead was quieter. I didn't think you cared that much, he said, looking at me. That sentence did it. Not because it was cruel. Because it was honest in the worst possible way. My throat tightened slightly, but I kept my voice steady. You didn't ask, I said. A pause. I told you what she liked. I helped you. I answered your messages. I did everything you needed, I continued. And you still didn't think I mattered enough to ask. Ryan didn't respond. Nathan shifted slightly, but stayed where he was. The street noise returned in fragments, cars, distant voices, but none of it felt relevant. Ryan finally spoke again, slower this time. When I said I'd write you a blank check, he began. I cut him off. I know what you said. That made him stop. I held his gaze. I didn't want money for this, I said. I wanted you to know me when it still mattered. A long silence followed. Ryan's expression changed then, something subtle breaking through the controlled exterior. Not dramatic. Not dramatic enough to fix anything. Just realization. But realization doesn't undo damage. Nathan looked away first, like he didn't want to witness the exact shape of it. Ryan took a small step forward. I didn't know, he said. And for the first time, it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like a fact he hated. I stepped back slightly. That's the point, I said softly. You never did. The space between us widened again. This time, no one tried to close it. I adjusted my bag strap and turned slightly toward the road. I'm going back, I said again. Nathan followed my movement immediately. Ryan stayed where he was. But just before I left, his voice came again, lower, restrained, almost rough around the edges. Tara. I paused. Hearing my name, my real name from him again, felt unfamiliar now. Like something borrowed from a version of life that didn't exist anymore. I didn't turn back. He continued anyway. I didn't mean for you to be the one who got left behind. A beat. Then quieter. I just didn't see you were there. I stood still for a second longer than I should have. Then I walked away. Nathan didn't speak until we had crossed the first street. You're shaking, he said simply. I'm not, I replied too quickly. He glanced at me once, then looked forward again. You are. I forced my fingers to loosen around my bag strap. Only then did I realize how tightly I'd been gripping it. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was just heavy in a different way. Behind us, I didn't turn around. But I knew Ryan was still there. Even without looking. Nathan slowed slightly, so he matched my pace. You didn't have to say all that back there. I know. A pause. But you did anyway, he said. I didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was I hadn't planned to. None of it had been planned. It had just reached a point where swallowing it hurt more than saying it. We walked a few more steps before Nathan added, quieter this time, you liked him. It wasn't a question. My throat tightened. I don't anymore, I said. Nathan hummed softly, like he wasn't convinced, but also wasn't interested in arguing. Ahead, the road shimmered slightly in the heat. People passed by without noticing anything had changed for me at all, like everything I'd just lived through was contained inside a bubble no one else could see. That was the strange part. Life continued either way. After a while, Nathan spoke again. He's not good at this, he said. I let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh if it had more energy behind it. That's not really the problem. Nathan glanced at me. Then what is? I hesitated. Because naming it made it real in a way I wasn't sure I wanted anymore. He only looks at people when he's already decided what they are to him, I said finally. And I wasn't anything until I became useful. Nathan didn't respond right away. When he did, it was simple. That's not nothing. I shook my head slightly. It feels like nothing. We reached the dorm gate before either of us said anything else. Nathan stopped beside it but didn't go in. You going to be okay? He asked. I nodded automatically. I'm fine. He studied me for a second, like he was deciding whether to believe that. Then he gave a short nod. All right. He turned slightly, then paused. One more thing, he said. I looked at him. Nathan's expression was neutral, but his tone wasn't careless anymore. If you're done being part of their story, he said, don't let him pull you back into it just because he finally noticed the ending. That sentence stayed with me longer than I expected. He walked away after that. And I stood there for a moment, not moving. When I finally went inside, the dorm felt the same as always, bright lights, soft noise, the ordinary chaos of girls talking, laughing, living. Melissa was sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up immediately when she saw me. Oh my God, your forehead, what happened? It's nothing, I said automatically. She frowned, getting up. Nothing doesn't look like that. I avoided her eyes and sat down on my bed instead. Behind me, her voice softened. You met Ryan today, didn't you? My hand paused on my bag. I didn't answer. That was enough. A few seconds passed. Then she said carefully, he's been asking about you too, you know. That finally made me turn slightly. What? Melissa hesitated. After I told him I didn't know where you went, he asked Nathan. A lot. My stomach tightened. Of course. Even now, everything circled back to connection points I didn't control. Melissa watched me closely. Tara, she said quietly, are you okay? For a moment, I almost said yes. The automatic answer. The easy lie. But instead, I looked down at my hands and realized something simple. I wasn't shaking anymore. Just tired. So I said the truth instead. I don't know yet. Melissa didn't push after that. She just sat back down slowly, phone forgotten in her hand, like she could sense that anything else might break whatever fragile line I was standing on. The quiet brought in a new air. After a while, she spoke again, softer. He looked really bad, you know. I didn't respond. Because I didn't want to picture it. But my mind did it anyway, uninvited. Ryan standing on that road, not moving even after I left. That last sentence of his looping back like it didn't know where to land. I didn't see you were there. I pressed my fingertips lightly into my palm until the thought blurred. Melissa shifted slightly on her bed. I didn't know you two had history like that, she said carefully. We didn't, I replied too quickly. She frowned. That's not what it sounded like. Silence again. This time, I didn't correct her. Because even I didn't know what to call it anymore. A mistake? A coincidence? A relationship that only existed in half-formed messages and misdirected attention? Or just me, quietly existing in a space he never intended to look at twice? I stood up. I'm going to shower, I said. Melissa nodded, still watching me like she was trying to understand something she didn't have all the pieces for. In the bathroom, I turned the water on too hot at first. The steam filled the mirror quickly, erasing my reflection in soft waves. I stayed there longer than necessary. Not thinking. Or maybe thinking too much. Everything kept circling back to that one moment, when Ryan said my name. Not Melissa's. Not Tara, like a passing correction. But like he'd remembered something too late to fix. I closed my eyes under the water. It didn't change anything. When I came back out, Melissa was already asleep. Or pretending to be. My phone lit up once on the desk. Then again. Then stopped. I stared at it for a long time before picking it up. No name shown on the lock screen preview. Just a notification. And beneath it, a second one arriving right after. I didn't unlock it immediately. My thumb hovered. That strange weight returned, not fear, not hope exactly. Something in between that didn't have a clean name yet. Finally, I opened it. Ryan. Are you okay? A pause. Then another message appeared. Ryan. I shouldn't have said those things today. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. The phone stayed warm in my hand. Another message came in, almost immediately, like he'd been typing and deleting for a while. Ryan. I didn't realize how it looked from your side. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. In the end, I sent something simple. Tara. I'm fine. 3 dots appeared instantly. disappeared, appeared again, then stopped. No reply came for a while. Outside, the dorm noise continued like nothing had shifted at all. Then my phone lit up again. Ryan, can I see you tomorrow? I froze. Not because the question was surprising, but because it sounded like the same kind of beginning I'd heard once before. The kind that felt warm at first, until you realized it didn't know where it was going. I stared at the message on my screen. Ryan, can I see you tomorrow? No explanation. No context. Just like everything between us could be paused and resumed whenever he wanted. I didn't reply immediately, because something in me finally clicked into place. Not anger. Clarity. I typed. Tara, no. Sent. The reply came almost instantly. Ryan, please. I stared at that word. This was the same person who had once offered me a blank check like my entire presence could be priced and replaced. The same person who only realized I existed when I stopped being convenient. I typed again. Tara, I'm done being in the middle of this. 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Then appeared again. Then, Ryan, it's not about Melissa. I let out a short, humorless breath. Of course it wasn't, now that I was leaving. I didn't reply. I put the phone face down. And for the first time in a long time, I actually slept. The next morning, I woke up to noise outside the dorm. Too much noise. People talking fast. Phones out. Footsteps in clusters. Melissa was already sitting up in bed, staring at her screen. Her face was pale. Tara, she said slowly, you need to see this. I walked over. On her phone, a post was already spreading through the university group chats. A screenshot. Ryan's messages. My name. Nathan's name. And one caption. Rich kid triangle drama Ryan dumping Melissa confirmed? My stomach dropped. Because below it, another post was already gaining traction. A photo. Me and Ryan outside the clinic. Nathan standing nearby. And the angle made everything look wrong. Like I was the center of it. Like I was the reason. Melissa looked up at me, voice shaking slightly. Did you know this was happening? Before I could answer, my phone lit up. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. A familiar voice came through, low and controlled. Stay where you are, Ryan said. A pause. Then, quieter. This just got out of hand. I didn't move. Neither did Melissa. The words hung in my ear like they were trying to rearrange reality into something manageable again. This just got out of hand. Ryan said it like it was a problem that had appeared on its own, not something that had been building the entire time. I stepped away from Melissa's bed. What did you do? I asked quietly. A pause. I didn't post anything, he replied. But it's already spreading. Someone clipped everything from yesterday. Of course it was. Nathan's name. Ryan's name. My name. The university didn't need truth, just alignment. I looked at Melissa's phone again. The post had already been shared across 3 different group chats now. Screenshots of messages. Edited captions. People arguing in comments like they were watching entertainment. Melissa swallowed. This is about me too, she said, voice small. That part hit harder than anything else. Because she was right. Even if she hadn't done anything, she was already positioned in the center of it. Ryan spoke again. I'm coming to your dorm. No, I said immediately. A beat of silence. That's not a request, he replied. Something in my chest tightened. That tone again. The same instinct he always had. When things stopped going the way he planned, he tried to reset them by stepping closer. I lowered my voice. Ryan, don't make this worse. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly. I already did. The call ended. I stared at my phone for a second too long. Then I turned to Melissa. Don't go anywhere, I said. She nodded, but she didn't look reassured. Outside, voices were getting louder. Too many people were gathering near the dorm entrance. I walked out anyway, and immediately saw him. Ryan. Standing near the steps, surrounded by murmuring students who kept their distance, but refused to leave. Nathan was already there too, leaning against the railing like he'd been there longer than everyone else. Ryan's eyes locked onto me instantly. He pushed forward a step. Tara. I didn't answer. Nathan straightened slightly, watching both of us like he was waiting for something to finally break cleanly. Ryan spoke again, faster this time. I told them to take it down. It's not stopping. Because you can't control it, I said. His jaw tightened. That's not the issue right now. That's exactly the issue, I replied. Silence cracked through the crowd around us. Nathan exhaled lightly. This is already past you too, he said. The group chats are feeding on it. People are picking sides. Ryan didn't look away from me. I didn't want any of this, he said. For the first time, I believed he meant it. But it didn't matter. Because wanting and preventing were not the same thing. A voice from the crowd shouted something, Melissa's name. Then mine. Someone laughed. Someone else recorded. I felt something inside me settle, not calm, not peace. Decision. I stepped forward, just enough that I wasn't behind anyone anymore. And I spoke clearly. This ends now. Ryan blinked slightly. Nathan raised a brow. I continued, voice steady now. I'm not part of your story. I'm not a misunderstanding. I'm not something you fix between yourselves. I looked at Ryan first. Then Nathan. Then the crowd. I'm done being used as the reason anything happens between anyone. A silence followed that felt different from before. Not chaotic. Sharp. Ryan's expression shifted, like he was about to say something. But Nathan spoke first. Then what do you want? I didn't hesitate. I want out. And for the first time since all of this started, nobody argued with me immediately. The silence held for a few seconds too long. Not because they agreed. Because neither of them had a clean response ready. Ryan's gaze stayed fixed on me, like he was trying to find a version of this where I wasn't slipping out of reach. Nathan, on the other hand, looked like he'd already accepted the direction things were going, just not the details. Finally, Ryan spoke. You can't just walk away from this like it never happened. I let out a short breath. That's exactly what I'm doing. His expression tightened. That's not fair. I almost laughed at that. Not loudly. Just enough to taste how ridiculous it sounded. Fair. I repeated. You think this is about fair? A few students nearby shifted uncomfortably, phones still up. Ryan stepped closer again, voice lower now. I'm dealing with it. I said I'd handle it. You didn't handle anything, I said calmly. You triggered it. Then tried to manage the fallout like it's damage control. That made his jaw flex. Nathan finally pushed off the railing. Honestly, he said, glancing at Ryan, she's not wrong. Ryan shot him a look. Nathan didn't care. This whole thing started because you treated people like placeholders, he continued. Now you're surprised it turned into noise? Ryan's eyes darkened. That wasn't my intention. Nathan shrugged. Doesn't matter. That word landed harder than expected. Doesn't matter. Ryan seemed to feel it too, because for a moment he actually went quiet. I took that opening. I'm leaving, I said again, more firmly. And I don't want either of you involved anymore. Ryan's voice came out immediately. No. One word. Too fast. Too instinctive. I turned my head slightly toward him. Why? I asked. He stopped. That question seemed to catch him off guard more than anything else today. Because there wasn't a clean answer that didn't make him look worse. Nathan watched, quiet now. Ryan's hand curled slightly at his side. Because this isn't how it's supposed to end, he said finally. I nodded slowly, like I was absorbing that. Then I said, it already ended. That was when something finally shifted in his face. The crowd noise around us rose again, people reacting, whispering, filming, but it felt distant now. Ryan stepped forward one more time. Tara. I cut him off. Don't. Just that. Soft. Final. He froze. I took one step back, then another. I'm transferring dorms, I said. And after that, I'm changing my number. A pause. And I'm done. I didn't wait for agreement. I turned away. This time, no one stopped me. Just the sound of my own footsteps going back inside. The dorm room felt strangely normal when I stepped back in. Melissa was still sitting where I left her, but her phone was off now, face down on the bed like she couldn't stand to look at it anymore. She looked up at me immediately. It's worse outside, isn't it? I nodded once. That was all I had energy for. She hesitated. Are you really leaving? Yeah, I said. A pause. Then she quietly asked, because of him? Or because of all of it? I thought about it. Ryan. Nathan. The messages. The posts. The way everything had slowly stopped feeling like my life and started feeling like a space other people were arguing over. It doesn't matter anymore, I said. And I meant it. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to assign blame to survive it. I just wanted out of the shape it had made me. By evening, the noise outside the dorm had started to thin. People got bored. They always did. Drama only stayed important until something newer appeared. I packed slowly. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just practically. Clothes. Books. Charger. The small things that proved I had been here at all. Melissa stood in the doorway watching. I don't think you did anything wrong, she said suddenly. I paused. Then I gave a small, tired smile. I don't think it's about right or wrong anymore. She didn't argue. Because she understood that part. When I finally stepped outside with my bag, the sky was already dimming. The campus looked the same. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. I didn't look for them. But I knew, somewhere behind me, Ryan was there. And Nathan too. Maybe watching. Maybe not. It didn't change my direction. I walked forward anyway. No blank check. No misunderstanding. No being the middle of anything that needed me to stay confused in order to exist. Just distance. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. A week later, no one was posting my name anymore. A month later, people stopped asking about it entirely. And somewhere in the quiet that followed, I realized something simple. I hadn't disappeared. I had just stopped being a place where other people left their decisions.